Assalamu alaikum. Ever since the war broke out in Palestine, Iran has been in the crosshair of criticism and attacks as well, which unfortunately came to a pass when Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi, when he was coming back from an official visit to Azerbaijan, died along with his foreign minister and other government officials in a helicopter crash. Today, I have on the panel an Iranian journalist, Mr. Puya, to discuss the mood in Iran after the demise of Ibrahim Raisi and issues associated with the Gaza war. Let me first introduce to the audience Mr. Puya. He is an Iranian journalist and analyst on foreign policy and geopolitics. He has worked in some of the leading newspapers of Iran, such as Tehran Times and Nowroz, and has also worked in Press TV, the leading television channel of Iran. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the time that you devoted to me.
I just want to start by knowing that what is the mood in Tehran? Because obviously we know the Tehrani people, how deeply associated they are with their nation, with their leaders, and with their all those leaders who are running the affairs of the country. So tell us, what is the mood of the Iranian people after the demise of Ibrahim Raisi?
You know, to tell the truth, the happening such situation is not the first time for Iranian people, but it was first time for my generation. As you may know, at the beginning of our revolution in 1979, there were some problems with some presidents because of some terror attacks. But for my generation, it was nearly after 42, 3 years that it's the first time such thing is happening. So it was a very big shock for Iranian people, regardless of their political view. When you lose the head of the state, it's something shocking. Mostly because the late Mr. Raisi had a meeting with the president of Azerbaijan, and they were starting something a new dam, I think, on the Aras River, and beside him was the late Dr. Hossein Amir Abdullahian. He had a lot of fans, although in Iran, and if you review the news after the 7th of October, Mr. Amir Abdullahian was very active in the region,
Very active.
acting, yes, as the supporter of the Palestinian people and the Gaza people. So it was not only a big shock for Iranian people, although for neighboring countries. I know in Pakistan there was one day of mourning for our president and foreign minister. It was the same in Turkey and Iraq, and the mood was shocking and then sorrow.
And even, when he came to Pakistan a few months back, he was talking about synergy, and he was appreciated and applauded for his vigor, the way he was actually confronting the United States of America, despite all the sanctions, despite all, the dirty work which is going against Iran for the last several decades. Ibrahim Raisi actually stood, valiantly, and he was, trying to make a new, trying to bring around everybody, especially in the region, so that to confront, whatever we call, the affront that the United States of America has opened against Iran. So, having said that, I just want to know one more thing, because I want to talk about Gaza. How can you explain the silence of the Arab world? It is just beyond my comprehension, and it's getting beyond the comprehension of. I'm talking from the point of view of the Muslims, right away. Why is this criminal silence? You see, condemnation is very easy. You can pass as many resolutions as you want, sitting in your country or even in the United Nations. But there is a criminal silence when it comes to tangible actions. Do you really think that the Arab world cannot do anything? They don't have any capacity. They don't have any leverage over Israel.
You know, I, I think some weeks ago there was a conference with John Mearsheimer. You may know him. He is a lecturer and a thinker, American thinker in the field of the international relations. And he mentions exactly that in this situation between Palestine and Israel, there were only Iran and Turkey very active, yes. But according to the Arab countries, Arabian countries, we could divide them into the two parts. Most of them with the monarchy governments and states, with monarch, or as they themselves call the sheikh, they are completely in silence. But the republics, I mean the Arabian republics, like Iraq and Syria and Lebanon, they were a little bit more active. But generally, yes, it was, I couldn't call it amazing. It was again shocking that beyond the concept of Islam and being Muslim, in the first stack, the people of Palestine, they are Arab. And we know that nearly 40, 50 years ago, during the last wars with Israel, it was a kind of a pan-Arabism to defend and support Palestine. But it seems that they have lost this
No.
sense at the moment, yes, and they don't care about a small Arabic nation that is under the aggression of the Zionist regime. We know that 2, 3 years ago, some of these Arabic kingdoms, like the Emirates and Bahrain, started to normalize the relationship with Israel under something that was called the Abraham Accord or Abraham Treaty. And before the 7th of October, we heard some news that Saudi Arabia is going to normalize the relationship with Israel. So maybe they are thinking about a future that such countries have some kind of political and economic relationship with Israel. This could be the first realistic reason for their silence. But Iran, Turkey, and although Pakistan in some cases were leading countries that are supporting the cause of Palestine and the problems that are happening in Gaza. But I don't know in the future what would be the answer of the Arabic countries to the
Yes.
history, to the generations, that when they are asking, okay, there were an Arabian people under such brutal aggression, it is completely a genocide. It is not my word, the International Court of Justice, they recognize it as a kind of genocide. But most of Arabian countries, actually all of the Arabian kingdoms and monarchies, they are completely silent.
Yeah, yes, and how I wonder how will they justify this silence, in future, even if they associate themselves with Israel, as you are saying that they might have some kind of plan going around, somewhere in their minds to that effect. I want to ask you one question regarding the proxies. There's an allegation on Iran that probably the war in Gaza, it took a turn for the worse because of the proxies that Iran has been using over several decades to confront Israel. Do you really think that this is a correct allegation? Because they say that
You know,
Hamas.
the literature of proxy, we don't use it. This is a completely Western literature. We call it the resistance front.
Right.
And um, let me tell you something. Most of these groups, these resistant groups in Lebanon, the
Mm.
Hezbollah was the
Allah.
first one,
Mm.
and in Iraq, the Hashda Sha'bi, and
Mm.
also Ansarullah in Yemen,
Mm.
and the Islamic Jihad, and also Hamas in Palestine. Uh, at the first level, they are not attached to Iran.
Oh.
Iran is not commanding them. This is a wrong literature that Western countries want to spread. They are independent entities,
Mm.
but they have a common goals with Iran,
Mm.
and definitely Iran is supporting, but uh, they are actually working together
Mm.
for a bigger goal. That the most important one is the cause of Palestine.
Mm.
But in the case of the 17th of October operation, I'm pretty sure that maybe they had some arrangements before, but particularly they didn't arrange anything with Iran, although they didn't arrange anything with Hezbollah. The Mr. Nasrallah has mentioned this, that we haven't been informed and Hamas didn't arrange with us exactly. But in a bigger level, yes, they are working together and they had the track of defeating ISIS, Daesh. Uh, if it wasn't the resistant front, I think at the moment ISIS was active in some parts of Middle East and maybe they were operating in Europe. I don't know why European security cooperation organizations, they don't consider that it was the resistant front that defeated Daesh or ISIS.
Mm.
And at the moment, you can see we pay the expenses. A
Yes.
new group of Daesh called the ISIS of Khorasan in
Mm.
Central Asia and mostly in the borders of Afghanistan. They are planning some terrorist attack, and the last one was in the city of Kerman some months ago, last year in Iran. So um, Iran and the I, I don't call it proxy, but allied groups,
Mm-hmm.
the resistant front allied groups are paying a lot of expenses for fighting against terrorism, but no one considers this. No one considers that if there wasn't Iran or such groups, what would happen
Mm.
with not only ISIS, but the other terrorist groups in
That's
this
true.
region.
Mm.
But in the case of the 17th of October, I am pretty sure that there wasn't any particular arrangement for that. And it was the Hamas decision and the Palestinians' decision that they decided to conduct such an operation. And it was very obvious it was a response to the
Mm.
something more than 80 years of oppression and aggression.
No, tell me, didn't they foresee the kind, knowing Israel, the kind of aggression Israel has been carrying out, against the Palestinian, even in their everyday life, they had to face brutality in the hands of the Israelis. They couldn't cross over, even the ordinary workers, they would land up in jails, for petty things which they even didn't commit. It didn't even come in in the definition of theft or in the definition of crime. So didn't they foresee the kind of response Israel would mount? And how do you think that they just downplayed it, or were they ready for this, or did they expect that the Muslim world or the Arab world would support them and come to rescue them, or was it a calculated or was it a miscalculation?
I don't think so, because I don't know exactly what was in the mind of the Hamas leaders, but I don't think so, because when they started this operation, as I mentioned, it was in the middle of the news about the normalizing the situation between Saudi Arabia and Israel. So I don't think so that they have counted on the support of Arabian countries.
Mm.
And as I said, they didn't arrange with Iran. Maybe they also didn't count on the support of Iran,
Mm.
and they only uh, tried to put on all the energy on their own elbows, as we call it.
Mm.
Uh, but the term is that Israel, or the Zionist regime, at the moment is the last, uh, I call it the last castle of colonialism in the world. And colonialism is a phenomenon belonging to the more than 100 years ago, to the 19th century. And in the other hand, if you see uh, all the countries which are 100% supporting Israel, like the United States or Canada or Australia, they are based on colonialism and aggression. They have committed such genocides against the local people in their lands. The United States, the white supremacists, when they landed on the continent, North America, they have killed lots of indigenous people, as they themselves call them, the Indian people. But I mean the Indians of
Yes.
the yes, North America, not the Indian in India. And it was the same with the Australia was first of all the biggest prison belonging to the British Empire,
Mm.
and most of the people were prisoners, criminals that they have been sent to Australia. Then gradually it became a something like a nation, and they fought it against the indigenous people of Australia as well. So this is the same game going on. And, geopolitically, uh, after the Anglo-Saxon people, they thought, okay, right now we have conquered all over the world and we know this globe completely. So they turned back to as we call it, the old land, the Asia,
Mhm.
and they started a new game of colonialization. And the first step was Israel. And I would tell you, if they would be successful to spread a kind of something like a country or any kind of regiment in the Western Asia, in the Middle East, they won't stop here. They may
Mm.
continue because they had this track, and Pakistan and India at that time were geographically a same country, and they were under the occupation of
Mm.
the England for more than 200 years. And uh, you know well that what British people did
Mm.
in the Indian Peninsula, it was the same with the Southeast Asia, in the countries like Philippines or like Indonesia, Java at that time, Indochina they call it. They were under the occupation of the Anglo-Saxons and Dutch from Netherlands. So this is the same game, and Israel is the last remnant of this game and this mentality. If we couldn't defeat them here at this
Mm.
moment, they will continue. I'm pretty sure that they continue mostly eastward, and they maybe try to to change the population, to change the generations. For example, most of us, we know that in Afghanistan, although in Pakistan and some other countries like Tajikistan, we Iranian people, we call these countries like not only a neighboring country, but a brother country, because sometime in a history, all of these lands belonging to the Persian Empire. And you know that the people in Afghanistan right now, they are speaking Persian. The people in Pakistan used to speak Persian. And it was your prime minister that mentioned that if it wasn't England at the moment, we were speaking with the same language together, Iranian and Pakistani people. And it was same with some other countries in the Central Asia. So who changed this uh, trend? Who changed this cultural and civilizational heritage? Okay, it was England spreading for example, a new language like Urdu in Pakistan. At the moment, they are working for a new language like the Pashtun, the Pakhtun language in Afghanistan. Although the Afghan people are speaking Persian for more than 2,000 years. All of them are in the same puzzle to change the ethnicity of people, their cultural and civilizational heritage, and Israel is the biggest stronghold for them. It's because of that they are supporting Israel with their 100% force.
So there are news coming. You must have heard as well from Israel government that they're saying that this war may go on for 7 months, which means that they will exterminate, they will kill. I think every living thing in
It
Gaza.
seems that, yes, in their mentality, they are thinking to completely vanish the Palestinian people, or at least the people in Gaza, because we saw the day before yesterday what happened in Rafah.
That is
Israel pushed millions of people to the south of Gaza, and they said, "Okay, go south, go south, go south," and they went, and they were not military people; they were the civil people. They were not armed people. They were the ordinary people, women, children, elderly. But Israel put them under such disaster and burning them actually. So the point is that we cannot trust the Zionists. And as I told you, they have plan, but in the other side, they know that this war, the outcome of this war, could be disaster for them as well.
as well,
You know,
yes.
Palestinian, mostly Gaza people, they have lost uh, 36,000 people.
Already.
So they don't leave it like that. Okay, that's all, it's finished. I don't think so. There would be any peace over there because these people that have been martyred in Gaza, they have families, they have
Yeah.
children, and definitely they would try to take revenge and they would be more
Yes.
operations. So the situation after 7th of October wouldn't be like the time before that. I think we are in a new era. Last night, the leader of Iran issued a letter to the youngs and student people of the North America. And His Excellency mentioned that we are in a turning point in the history and we are in a new era in the history. And definitely the Zionist people, they know this too, that we are in a very new situation.
So I was just talking about the letter. Uh, there were news, about protest in Iran because probably mostly I read them in Western newspapers, even in Israeli newspapers. They were saying that although Iranians they support Palestinian and pro-Palestine protest, but they say that when we look into the protest going around in Iran itself, not many people are coming, taking to the street, and they're not interested, because the reason they give is that because of the suppressed kind of governance that the youth face over there, so they are very indifferent to the crisis that the Palestinians are facing. How much truth do you think is in this narrative?
Most of these calculations are wrong.
Mm,
Although there are some problems inside Iran, like any
mm,
other countries,
mm,
economic problem, political problem. But the point is that in issues like the Palestinian cause or any other issue, we take it as a something like a national issue.
mm,
But in the other side, Iran has nearly 80 million people, and these people are they have a diverse opinion about lots of things. So generally, Iranian people with different opinions and different interpretations,
mm,
uh, they are supporter of the cause of Palestine. Some Iranian people, they support it in the point of the religious and Islamic view.
mm,
Some Iranian people are supporting Palestine in the point of human rights and some other uh, modern concepts. Some other Iranian people, let me tell you, maybe you don't know, but it is good for the information of your uh, audiences. Some Iranian people, they support Palestine because they believe that Palestine used to belong to Iran for a long time, nearly 1,000, 2,000 years ago. And it is a reality in the history. Exactly, the city of Gaza
mm,
was a part of Persian Empire.
mm,
And I don't know if you know the Alexander the Great, when they attacked Persian Empire, the first city and the first stronghold of the Iranian land, Iranian Empire, that was under attack by Alexander was Gaza. So there are people in Iran that they are supporting Palestine as they believe that Palestine used to be a part of the Iranian Empire and Iranian land. So there are a lot of reasons and opinions to support Palestine in Iran. But to tell the truth, there is no reason between Iranian people to support Israel, although these people, maybe some of them would be the critical of the Iranian government. Criticizing the government
this
with the
one.
internal issues is something,
Mm,
and supporting the Palestine in such situation is exactly something else. And the Iranian people are making difference between these two. But Western media try to manipulate these
mm,
situations and try to show that okay, the people who are criticizing the government, they
mm,
are supporter of Israel, but it is not like that at all. If you go to Iran, you will see. uh, I couldn't see any political group. We have lots of different political groups, reformists, some seculars, religious people. They are inside Iran, but none of them have any reason to support the Zionists.
right, yes. Okay, now last question. I was just reading a news on Voice of America website, and actually talked about that not much news is coming from Iran about the helicopter crash, and because actually, the focus was on the person who came alive, from that debris, and whatever I have read in that piece of news is that that particular person was, he's still alive. Probably he's a cleric, some, Iranian cleric, who was in constant touch with the Iranian government throughout until the debris was found. So, my question to you is that do you really think, or the Iranian government think, there was a
Sorry,
conspiracy?
I didn't understand. No one came alive from the
See, this
helicopter.
is the news I just read on the Voice of America. You can go, I will share a link with you. And this is what they have explicitly written. It's a very fresh, latest news. And they say that they are not answering. There are many questions which are left unanswered. And one of the question is that the Iranian, one of the cleric who was traveling with them, he was alive. He's still alive, and he has been in constant touch with the government. And there is no explanation to this. And I will share the link with you. Even
No,
I will
no.
share the link with the audience
So
as well.
maybe they didn't, maybe they made a mistake, you know. There were 8 people on board in the helicopter. And these 8 people, 2 of them were the clergies.
Mhm.
And one of them was the Mr. Raisi, and the other one was the we call it Friday prayer imam,
Mhm.
Friday prayer imam of Tabriz,
Mhm.
and uh, he was alive for nearly 1 or 2 hours. We
Oh,
have some, yes, and maybe he used one of the mobile phones of the crew trying to contact. But you know, this part of Iran is called the Arasbaran jungles. It means rainforest. And it is very famous in Iranian literature and culture that it is one of the most complicated environmental place in Iran. Uh, for example, we say if you go there, you may not get out because it is in, with high density jungles located on the mountains. So maybe they couldn't track the exact place of the mobile phone. But at the end, after 2, 3 hours, this gentleman was dead too.
mhm.
And he's not someone that could be hidden, you know, because he's the Imam of Tabriz. So there are a lot of people over there that they are looking forward for him. Maybe, for example, if he was a ordinary people, we could say yes, they hide him, he is alive. But and uh, there was a very big ceremony for him in Tabriz, and his father is still alive. He is a very, very old man, nearly 90, 95 years old. And if you see in some of the ceremonies, his father is sitting on a wheelchair beside the leader of Iran. It is his father. And it was very amazing the first time for me that you heard that one of the clerics, he's
Yes.
still alive. No, there were 8 people, and all of them, unfortunately, were martyred.
And this was no, there was no conspiracy. It was just an accident, obviously.
Yes,
As
definitely. Yes, you know the commander of the chief of staff of Iran has conducted a technical group to go and analyze what exactly happened. But definitely, it was a something like a natural disaster. And you know, the United States, they themselves, they announced that it was a natural disaster because, you know, they are using the satellites and so on.
mm,
And yes, it was a disaster. It was very shocking, but uh, the weather was clear, but suddenly
mm,
a yes, a front of the clouds and bad weather and foggy weather coming around. And one of the reasons that it took a long time to find the remainings of the helicopter was exactly because of this foggy weather. It is very
mm,
obvious in the clips and videos and footage that people are looking around. And let me tell you something amazing. The ordinary people first found the helicopter, crashed helicopter. I mean, they were not the military or army or so on. The local people around, there were some a group of the motorcycle rally people. They used their motorbikes and they found the helicopter, and then they announced the officials.
Mm. Thank you very much for coming to my show. I'm
Thank you
really
very much.
grateful to give me the time, and we had a very good discussion. And we can only
Thanks.
for the people of Palestine. You know, our Indian friends and many friends, you know, they say that Muslims they rely a lot on prayer, and as if we Muslims don't work. You know, this is a very wrong impression, probably, which has uh, uh, these many of our Muslims, non-Muslims usually people have about Muslims, especially in this region. You know, they think that Muslims are more dependent on prayer and on the third party to come and help them out and rescue them instead of doing some things with their hand
No,
and work.
it's something, it's a completely wrong impression. No, the Muslim people, yes, although praying is a very important factor in Islam, but generally we say first act, then pray for the result of your act. So the praying comes after acting.
Mm,
And the point is that at the moment you can see all over the world, it's not only the Islamic world. In Europe, in the United States, there are lots of people around with different religions. Although some Jews in the United States, they say that we are against Zionism, and
mm,
Zionism doesn't have anything to do with Jews,
yes.
because yes, we know Zionism is a something like a new and modern idea. It came from at the end of the 19th century with
Mm,
a gentleman called Theodor Herzl in I think it was in Poland or Czechoslovakia or somewhere over there. Before that, we didn't have any concept or any idea by the name of Zionism. So Jewish people, they say that, okay, they are not a part of Jewish acting or Jewish religion. Zionism is something very dangerous. And in the other side, you can see there are lots of Christians that they call themselves Zionists. You see, most of the presidents of the United States, America is a very religious country. And Europeans, no, they are to some extent they are secular or laik people, but Americans they are religious people, and most of their presidents they say, okay, we are Christian, but we are proud to be Zionist. It's
mm.
very amazing. So Zionism is something new, and it is a really destructive and brutal idea and ideology.
So, from your discussion, what I can gather is that it is just well, there's no one in this world at this point of time when there's so much advancement, when there's so much awareness about human rights, when we have so much technologies on us, and even when the Muslim world, one of the some of the richest countries are in the Muslims. So, despite all these positivities, we cannot do anything to stop this genocidal act of Zionists, and that too in the middle of the world. This is no continent which is at the end of the earth where people cannot reach, where you cannot take your skills or your capacities, your capabilities, to stop this, and no one is. Particularly bothered because it's business as usual. If you look at the Arab world, I don't know why, but Muslims do have this programmed thing, to look up to, especially Saudi Arabia, because I think because of the two holy cities, we have even in Pakistan there's this mentality that somewhere we think that as if Saudi Arabia should have the command, should lead the Muslim world and should stop the atrocities. But what we see is, since 2001, after the 9/11, there is this Islamophobic, this culture of Islamophobia, I would say, which is just getting high, and it's just finding space and place everywhere in the world. And in the name, and I can see, even in subcontinent, obviously this is a subcontinent. Even when I see in India as well, it is just, there's a very typical kind of a hatred for Muslims I have seen in them. They consider them as if illiterate, they consider them not progressive, they consider them, not willing to work hard and all that stuff. And in the name of Islamophobia, I would say, this is just becoming another name for Muslim hatred, and it has so much lies in it. There's so much dishonesty in it.
As I told you, it is a puzzle planned with the Western countries mostly and the United States to change the narrative about the Muslim people, about the people in this region, although about the people in Central and Western Asia. Uh, because if they couldn't change this narrative, the people living here, consider the population from India to the Mediterranean Sea in Middle East, it would be something around more than 2 billion,
Mm,
nearly 3 billion people are living over here. And these 2, 3 billion, more than half of them are Muslim. So if you couldn't be able to change the narrative,
that-
these people would be able to establish their own identity, their own civilization, their own culture as they had before. So I call it, first of all, the war of narratives. We are in the
yes.
war of narratives. And yes, in this war, unfortunately, some Arabic countries, uh,
Mm,
I would try to divide the Arabian governments with Arabian people, because maybe most of the people are pro-Palestine. As you see, when Iran attacked Israel by missile, there
mm,
were lots of Arabic people admiring Iran, and they say, okay, look, they were defended Palestine, but our governments are something useless. So I don't know why their governments are um, acting like this, but I can understand maybe they have calculated more benefit for themselves to have a connection with Israel maybe in the future. And right now they have a high connection with the United States of America, with England, with France. But the Arabic people, I mean the Islamic world, the situation is different. And I think the problem right now we have in the Palestine will lead to change the narrative against Muslim people in Europe, because all of these young people in Europe and America who are coming out and protesting against their own governments, these are students in American universities. So they, at the end of the day, they would try to study the history, to study
mm,
the other narratives, and I'm pretty sure that they will understand that there
mm.
are lots of lies in their own mainstream media.
Yes, from India. And one thing before we end this show, which worries me actually, Muslims have been made to feel about themselves, apologetic. I don't know whether you have encountered this attitude or not. Muslims, they feel apologetic for being Muslims. I have seen that. They rather would like to associate themselves with, if I talk about this region, uh, any other thing. But actually, yes, they are Muslims, but they feel apologetic being Muslim, because sometimes there's a branding of terrorism, that all Muslims are terrorists. So they have.
But in Iran, sorry, in Iran is not like that at all. I don't understand this mentality. We are not apologetic. We are proud of being, the Iranian people actually are proud of being two things. First, being Iranian, and second, being Muslim, because we have a long history, a long civilization, a very long culture, a very rich culture and narrative, and mostly we are proud of that. half of our history belongs to the before Islam, and the other half of our history, around 1,400 years, belongs with Islam. So we believe that we have two main pillars of our identity as in Muslim Iranian people, and we are proud of that. When we go everywhere, we are proud of being Iranian and proud of being Muslim. Although there are, there are ethnic Christian and Jewish Iranian people,
Mm,
and maybe it would be amazing for you. The Iranian Jewish people are against Zionism as well. If you
mm,
search the media, mostly in Persian, you will find the ethnic Iranian Jewish people who are against Zionism.
mm,
And ethnic Iranian Christians, you may call them Armenian.
mm,
Armenians actually are the ethnic Christians of Iran. And Armenia as well used to be part of Iran until 200 years ago. And then uh, Russia uh, cut it away from Iran. So we are proud of this civilization and we are proud of this identity, both being Muslim and being
mm,
Iranian. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure, but maybe in Pakistan and India, because of these problems between Muslims and Hindus and something or that, maybe people think like that.
yes,
And let me tell you another fact. You
mm,
know, about all these terrorist groups
mm,
during the past 20, 30 years.
yes,
If you
mm,
remember, the concept of terrorism uh, gets into the priority nearly 20 years ago, 20, 25 years ago by Al Qaeda. You have never seen any Iranian terrorist. As,
mm,
to be sure, if there was only one Iranian terrorist between these groups, the American media, the European media would put focus on that. They have tried, but they have never found only one Iranian terrorist inside these groups. And most of the identity of most of these terrorists are unfortunately from Saudi Arabia.
mm,
Uh, yes, this is the reality.
yes,
The leaders are 100% from Saudi Arabia, and the other soldiers, like the ordinary terrorists, most of them are from Saudi Arabia, and some of them from Iraq, unfortunately. The other ones from Afghanistan and some borders in northern Pakistan, unfortunately. So maybe it's because of that as well that we don't feel apologetic.
mm,
We have been against terrorism. Iran, um, according to the reality, the facts, is the biggest counter-terrorism state in the world. We have fighted terrorism from 40, 45 years ago till
mm,
now. And the Americans, they know it as well too. When they first entered Iraq, they sent lots of message for Iranians that please help us for fighting against terrorism. It was the same in Afghanistan when they entered Afghanistan with Taliban. They sent message to Iranians that please help us for fighting against terrorism because they know that Iran has a long track of fighting terrorism. So I would tell you, my friends in Pakistan, I have lots of good friends in journalists in Pakistan, and maybe you have seen some of my other program and interviews in Pakistani's um, uh, televisions and so on. Most of the time, I would say that don't feel like this. Be proud of being Muslim. Be
yes,
proud of being Pakistani. We, all of us, Iranians, Pakistani, Afghan people, we are coming from a long, rich heritage of history, civilization, and culture. And we do not have any weakness that to be apologized for that.
yes. Thank you so much. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you. Okay. Um, I
Thanks for
will.
the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.